Escort girls of Reddit, have you ever been caught by the clients? So how did that go? So I was the girlfriend that caught my fiancé registered sign soliciting an escort. I found the texts and the link to the Craigslist ad. His reasoning was we had been having problems and he was never attracted to me. We just got along well. I left after that. At this strip club I worked at, one of the dancers had a daddy that came in legit almost every day. He actually was good looking and charming. His wife saw his car in the lot and pulled in and tore past the bouncers and ran into the VIP area. They were back there. It came to seconds of them getting caught. She didn't get her tip that day, so he tripled it the next time out of guilt. This happened to a good friend of mine. Wife had taken their teenage daughter hiking for the entire day and he thought he'd have some company over. Apparently the daughter got sick and they came back much earlier than expected. She walked in on her husband being led around on a dog leash wearing their daughter's panties. Went as well as could be expected. They got divorced last year. Daughter went to my school, but left town after all that went down. Edit. I am a teacher and the daughter attended my school. Sorry for the confusion. 2 wives of clients knew about me because their husbands flat out told them, under the sad misapprehension that once they were divorced, we'd be free to have an unpaid relationship. The first time, I was flattered, conflicted, and saddened. The second time, I was pissed off. You threw your happy home life away because you just hoped some college girl was going to ride off into the sunset with you? Now I only do 2 hours maximum sessions. Because I've found that clients who book overnights or full day sessions are the most likely to lose their grasp on the reality of the situation. Somehow, sleeping next to someone is more intimate than ducking them, and it makes these men confused. When I was pro-doming, I had a great client, one of my favorites. He was this older guy, worked in construction, who liked to be dressed up like a pretty girl and humiliated. This is an incredibly common fetish and easy money. For his 60th birthday, he decided he wanted to try getting pegged. That wasn't something I'd do for just anyone, but we had good rapport and the idea delighted me, so I went ahead and made him my itch for the evening. He loved it. We had a great talk afterwards about how liberated it made him feel, how, as he got older, he wanted to try new things, and how he wished his wife could understand and be adventurous with him. This is not an unusual conversation. What is unusual is that the guy apparently told his wife, I got a nasty email telling me to stay the hell away from her man. I never responded and never heard from him again. I hope they made it. NSFW. I used to post ads on Craigslist looking for D. Usually I'd post with titles like, hot mouth looking for down low married men. The title helps with how they feel they identify. Anyways, I get this message of a dude who says he is willing to be generous if I can make him come using only my mouth. After about 5 hours of texting back and forth, I agree to meet him at a motel. He was about 32 years old, married with twins. How do I know this? Because when I arrived to the motel, the wife and only the wife was there waiting for me. I knocked on the door in the sequence I was told. Door opens and there she is. The look on her face said it all. I don't think she realized I was a guy until I was then and there. She gave me this whole spiel about being a homewrecker and that I should be ashamed. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. I did offer to give her some oral since I was already there. It didn't happen, but she did consider it. Edit. A friend with weed is a friend indeed. But a friend with gold is the best, I'm told. Leprechaun. Thanks for the gold. Ex phone dominatrix. On a call with a dude and someone picks up the other line. It is his elderly and disabled mother, and she needs his help to get out of bed. I tell my caller to go take care of his mom, and we can talk more later. His mom thinks I'm his girlfriend and is so thrilled at the thought that her son has an actual flesh and blood girlfriend that she tells him to finish talking to me. She can't wait. I hung up because I didn't get paid enough to deal with that. It was super sad because his mom was so delighted that he had a girlfriend. I never heard from him again. Another caller hated his wife and wanted to be feminized while talking about what a rich his wife was and how disgusted she would be at his sissy desires. Once he got caught talking on the phone to me while literally hiding in the closet. Heard his wife say, "What are you doing in there?" My caller yelled back that he was organizing the winter coats while hurriedly zipping up his pants and hanging up on me. Same caller once tried to send me $500 in gift cards, but the credit card company called him to make sure it wasn't a fraudulent charge, and his wife answered. He managed to talk his way out of that one, too. Nice try to get the usernames of all escort girls of Reddit. Sort of the other way round, but I found out the girl I was dating was an escort when she texted me instead of the client. True story. I worked as a dominatrix years ago, and during those years I had acquired some regular clients. This particular client worked in another province and lived in another country, but all the same was a very good client. He told me that he was separated from his wife. However, when he went back to his place in the other country, she found my dom number, called me. She was asking me who I was and how many times I saw him and etc. It went okay besides her yelling and him pleading not to say anything. I don't even remember what happened after that, but he still remained my client after the whole ordeal. Edit. I do not engage in oral sex or intercourse with my clients. Furthermore, I remain clothed at all times. Got a call on my phone from an unknown number. I was at my laptop, so I typed the number into Google and hit enter. This was years ago before Google started futzing phone searches. And when it didn't load immediately, I went ahead and answered it. Turned out to be a tech from work who needed help accessing one of my systems. I walked him through it, then turned back to my laptop. The top hit on Google for his phone was a Craigslist ad for gay erotic massage. And it wasn't a wrong number. It had a couple months of ad history, and even though there were no face pics, his unusually hairy arms and a small tattoo were easy to identify. I kept that story to myself for a few years, only relating it after I left the company. I told the story at a bar with some old co-workers, not knowing that this guy's wife was friends with one of them. Anyway, my bad. I've been indirectly caught. My client told his wife and she sent me a polite email asking to meet. I see upper end clients, so I was not concerned about a white trash wonder episode from her in public. They were married 40 years, drifted apart, not 6, just good friends, and good roommates. Divorce was definitely never an option for them. She was more curious about things than anything else. She wanted to try being with a woman and had felt repressed her whole life because of it. I am a safe bet, and I decided that interaction would be on the house. I am someone who loves women as well, and these two were a good looking couple. I prefer older in general. This has possibly been my weirdest interaction to date, but her meeting me somehow sparked their marriage. They book me about once a month together. Edit. I have been made aware of the HBO series You, and Her I do plan on watching at some point. A few commenters asked that I do an AMA, so I made a link. Third party story incoming. I knew someone who began going to escorts. My friend was his GF and she noticed he had missing hours in his schedule. Apparently he'd lie about being with friends or where he'd been. I thought she was being insane and clingy, but she finally snapped when a group photo of a work event that didn't have him in it popped up on FB. She asks around. He wasn't at that after work event despite saying he was. So being a sane individual, she hid her phone in his car. She tracks it from her house once he's done with work and is likely up to no good. She sees her phone is showing at some expensive apartment building where the car is parked. She goes there, smashes his window, retrieves her phone, then calls him with it. Not sure about much after that, but apparently he had white powder all over his face. Needless to say, they aren't together anymore. Edit. In her story she said something like he had white powder all over his face when she retold it. I can't attest to the type of powder or how all over his face it was. It may have just been nostril crust. I've been stripping for years. Only once, of the hundreds of times I've given out my number, has a wife called me. She was initially angry as duck. Her husband had been sent to rehab for alcohol and drugs. He wasn't working. She was the breadwinner, and he had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on partying. His phone was full of girls' numbers, hookers, strippers, random girls he was ducking. She was going to call everyone in his phone book. My name begins with a yo mama, so I DK how far she got down the list. She asked me why I was stripping and I told her about college and whatnot. She wasn't angry with me at all, but very angry with him. She promised to come visit me sometime. Crazy AF. She asked me how much he gave me and it wasn't much. Just a $100 bill for a $20 lap dance. His friends were giving me money too, so I figured I should keep in touch with them. I spent the money on a couple of school books the next day, which he was okay with. Smartphones get even smarter every year, so this stuff is easier to hide than ever. But people who constantly lie can't hide it every single time. Edit, people gotta be weird about stuff. So is escort a fancy word for prostitute? Met with an escort. Felt so bad I told my GF. The good ol', I'm more of a therapist than an escort thread. I hadn't seen it this week. I was once asked, do I have a girlfriend by an escort? My reply was, if I did I would not be here. Well, I was 16 and stupid on drugs, so it didn't occur to me what I was doing was bad. But the police caught us, and while my dad came to pick me up from the hotel, I passed by the so and his kids yelling at him while he's in handcuffs. I worked as a masseuse for a bit. I was never caught per se, but I had a good client who came in a few times and he even paid to hang out outside of the establishment. We were friendly and all of our relations were purely business related, which he was fine with, but one day I got an angry text from a girlfriend wife etc threatening to kick my ass. I noped right on out and blocked his number. Never heard from him again. I had a friend who was discovered, but only a few months after his death. To make a long story short, we knew each other from school and he went on to be a bigwig lawyer for a company out west, married a beautiful woman and had 2 healthy kids. About 6 years ago, he went blind one day. He just lost his sight out of nowhere. They went to the doctor and discovered he had eaten meat tainted with mad cow disease. He quickly declined in health and passed away. Friends and family were just shocked. Very sad. His wife kind of put all his stuff away and waited a whole year before she could process going through it all. This was when the iPhone was still new and her son asked if he could have his dad since he had passed away. She was reluctant at first, but she pulled it out of storage and charged it. The phone was full of pictures, texts, and emails from a high-end escort company. There were even recent emails asking him where he was or why they haven't heard from him. This discovery sent her down a dark path and his family had a whole other issue to swallow. Last I heard, she had spent all the insurance money she got from his death and got bolt-ons and other plastic surgery. Level 8 mage here was paid to escort some orc lady through a flooded settlement. She hurt her ankle, but it turned out she used to be a shaman. Somewhat, sort of, kind of related story. I used to work the night shift in a gas station in the rough area of town, Vancouver, BC, East Hastings. Had this regular, quite distinctive fellow come in one night with a lady of the night. He was buying her all sorts of goodies, and she was kind of rolling her eyes but going along with it because free food, right? Didn't think much of it. That kind of evening worker wasn't uncommon for our place. About a week later, I see him during the day, walking down the street in another part of town. He's with someone who appears to be his wife. He sees and recognizes me, and gets this look of terror in his eyes. Of course I didn't say anything, but it looked like he thought that I might. Not me, but a friend had been having an affair with a married guy for 9-ish months. He said he was leaving his wife, but always came up with an excuse not to do it. Then one day, my friend was staying at his house when the wife showed up early from a business trip. She walked in and pulled a gun, aiming at her husband. This broke out into a huge fight scramble where I guess the guy tried to tackle her. He failed to pull her down but managed to knock the gun out of her hands. So my friend ran and picked it up and turned to see them screaming and trying to tear each other apart. When the woman saw she had the gun, she turned and begged my friend to shoot her husband, saying he was a cheating bastard, etc. My friend just stood there, bare assed, holding it. She said she was tempted, but very quickly chose to walk out. Grabbing her clothes on the way, she threw the gun in a dumpster outside their place and drove off, never seeing either of them again.